Hang on.
Buckle my shoe. 3, 4. Want some more? 5. Nike kicks.
And here's to the beginning.
I'll drink to that.
Why, Johnny Ringo.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can change it at any time.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Outlaw loose and running came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with the big iron on his hip.
Incoming the Rambling Podcast, with your hosts, Conway Titty, and Stoney Robbins.
Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Ramblin' Podcast. I know it's been a hot minute, but fuck you. So anyway, I'm Stoney Robbins, and I'm joined, as always, by my magnificent co-host, Coneth Way. Coneth, go ahead and say some words.
I'm Conway Titty.
Coneth. No, you don't, no.
I get my own golf claps.
Oh, okay. I
Okay.
guess that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
We golf clap for each other, but here we go. Time for some fun stuff in the episode.
Absolutely. Holy shit. This is going to be already a chaotic episode. But welcome back, guys. Anytime you don't respond, crickets only. I tell you, okay, and you're just like,
my timing is impeccable.
this is going to be too good. This is going to be too good.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, well, welcome back, guys. Happy summer. Summer break did start, so Sony and I took the month off to kind of recoup and replan and, just give ourselves a break. We'll give mainly Stoney a break because I could talk for hours and hours on end. You like to talk with periods of time. You don't like to just endlessly talk.
Correct.
So we got I figured it'd be nice to do a little summer break, and then start back on, today, which is June 1st for y'all if you're listening right when the episode comes out. We are on episode 28. Still doing the thing, even though, taking breaks is good and fine and dandy, but we want to make sure we're still bringing it to y'all. And if you haven't noticed, we do have, soundboard alert things that we've been
Soundboard
adding.
alert.
Soundboard alerts.
Soundboard alerts.
That I just know Sony's gonna overuse for sure.
Oh yeah, don't worry.
shouldn't
Don't
have
you
showed 'em.
worry. Yep, I'm getting my nitro as we speak for this exact reason.
Well, I hope you guys are having a really good summer so far. We are finally in a new month, which is crazy. I don't know how it's already June, to be honest. Like, I don't. It is kind of weird to me. I feel like the whole first half of the year has been a blur and long at the same time, but short. And then all of a sudden it's stinky, sweaty, hot weather again. And I'm like, I don't care for it. Bring me back to the fall. Get me to that winter again. Cause I literally loathe summer. I hate summer weather. I don't know why y'all love it. It's like if you're by a body of water and you have ability to be in a body of water almost every day, then like that's cool. But if you don't, summer's not fun. I don't find it fun. It's so hot and icky and sticky, and I don't know. It's just been icky. It's been very icky. I just don't like the weather. Like I said, obviously, guys, I'm very much a fall person. Very much like 65 degrees and less, maybe like 48 to 65. I enjoy that type of weather. A little crispiness in the morning. You know what I mean? A little crispy. But our last episode we did was a Star Wars episode. It was on May the 4th. That was probably the last one we did, if I remember correctly.
May the 4th be with you.
And Stoney had a really good time. Okay, Stoney. Anyways, our topic... chaos. A fucking chaos raccoon. That's all you are. As you can tell from the title of the episode, our topic today is first dates. So first dates can go very
Very bad, very fast.
yes. And we're gonna stay away. Obviously, like things can get really dangerous and crazy, and we've covered that in previous episodes. I think it was our obsessions episode that we did. We talked about how just crazy first dates can be. So we're gonna kind of stay away from that. We're gonna talk more about just like our experiences with first dates in general. Kind of some I have some funny cringy stories of like first dates that I've been on. Stoney has some funny like we're gonna keep this episode very lighthearted, but we know obviously the dark side of like first dates and dating apps and everything
Dark
like
side.
that. Yeah, no, for real, like the dark side of dating, and all the dating apps and things like that. So we're gonna kind of like I said, this episode's gonna be very lighthearted, so uh don't expect too serious of it. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna keep it very light and funny. And like I said, a lot of these things are things that have happened to Stoney and I. And we felt like talking about it because first dates are extremely awkward sometimes. And some first dates are really awesome. Some first dates, you don't really like you're just catching a vibe on somebody, just it's casual. And some people take first dates like extremely seriously.
First dates suck, especially whenever like you've got one, I guess, kind of preconceived notion of how the date is gonna go, and then you actually, start the date or whatever, and things just go completely different than what you imagined.
When talking about first dates, there is, I would say, the unspoken etiquette that kind of goes along with first dates, but that also like falls into like gender roles um and different things like that, which are also stupid and non-existent at the same time. You know what I mean? But let's say like 1950s first date etiquette is so different than today's first date etiquette.
Correct. It's very
And
different.
it wasn't like even first dates then were extremely serious most of the time. And also nowadays it's not as serious, but there's still people who take first dates very, very, very seriously. Um and there's also people who put on facades facades or like personas when it comes to like a first date. Maybe they don't act like that all the time, or they don't act like that on any of the other dates. Um, and that can be good and bad depending on like who the person is, how the vibe's going. Like I said, it can get weird quickly. But we're gonna like I said, try to stay away from talking about stuff like that. Um, but first date etiquette, if you fall into like the normal gender norms, but let's take the gender norms out of it. There's the etiquette of like who's paying. And in my idea of first date etiquette, usually the person who asks you on a date is the one that should pay. Unless you guys split things, like that's totally fine. But I feel like if you're inviting me on a date, I think you have it covered. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. I mean, that's
It'd be like if I asked Stoney on a date, I would know, even though, I'm a female, like I said, minus gender roles. Most people are like, oh, men pay first or anything like that, but like take that out of it. It's like if I invite Stoney on a date, I fully expect to pay for everything because I want him to enjoy the time that I'm taking him out on, right?
yeah, but that's not how most people view it. Most
Yes,
people still have the very archaic of like, okay, well, the man went out with you, so he has to pay for everything, which is fine. It's never bothered me any. I mean, you know that. Um, but
but I
I
meant like
do
if
think
we're
it's kind of dumb
taking,
that we're still there in
well, I
2023.
meant like you got to think about that. Not all relationships are male female. So what I'm saying is like taking gender completely out of the equation on everything. I feel like the invitation, if you are inviting somebody, like I said, if I am inviting a guy or a girl or whoever out, I knowingly am going to pay without question because I'm inviting them to an experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm talking about is like the etiquette of it is like, I feel like if like I said, you're inviting somebody to something on a date, on a first date, be expected to pay. Also, the downside of it is people are shitty they'll also be expected to pay either way. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I've been on, I mean, we'll go into it later, but say a guy invites you on a date and you get to the check at the end of the night at just a regular restaurant. Nothing crazy, just like a normal, say you're just going to like Chili's or something, right? You get the check and the waitress is like, which is also as a server, as somebody who's been in the food industry, it sucks. Trying to figure out like, are these people on a date? Is it what? It's always so awkward. Like it's always awkward because sometimes you'll have the couple that's like, oh, the guy's like immediately like, no, that's I'll take it, and you have one person that takes over quickly, and it's no big deal. But then you have like the awkwardness when you're standing there and you have the bill for the person, or you're like asking, hey, do you want me to get the bill? And then you go, is this on one check or two? And then they both kind of like look at each other, like thinking one of them's gonna be like, oh no, I got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
That's
it's really weird sometimes.
Oh, that's so weird as a server. You're just like, so is that a, and then they're just still like looking at each other like, are we, but I think there's been times I'm sure you guys have experienced this of like, someone has invited you out on a date and then they make you pay or you end up splitting it. But I feel like if you're going out on a date, especially in this day and age, always expect to pay for yourself. Like, don't rely on. So, I mean, I know there's tons of women out there that I knew tons of women that were like that, where they would solely go on dates with men because they
free
would get it
food.
for free food,
Yeah.
for free food, for free meals, for free gifts, for like, you know what I mean?
Yes,
And
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've seen it happen to myself.
and then that kind of goes in with like the pressures as well that some people have on first dates. Like everyone gets nervous on first dates if you really like that person. If you don't really give a fuck, like you don't really care. Like you have no interest in the date. You're just there for the food or the event or whatever it is, right? Um and there is so much pressure on the first date being perfect. There's so much pressure on it. Like if you are really into somebody and this is your first date and you're like excited and you're like, "Oh, okay, like we've been talking for a bit. Now it's like we're going to go out." There is the pressure of like if you're the person who's inviting that person on a date, there is the pressure of, "Oh my god, it has to go perfect. Otherwise, they're not going to want to have a second date with me. This is like the all or nothing, blah blah blah. Make it or break it." You know what I mean? And I find that weird. I find that so weird that first dates are like the first impressions. Don't get me wrong if you haven't been like talking to this person. But it's also because of the dating culture and lifestyle that has been like before, the 2000s in a sense. Like I said, let's say like 1950s, the pressures of it of like you gotta buy her a gift or gotta buy her some flowers or some chocolate or
Yeah,
you
we've
gotta
we've
take her for
said it.
ice cream and you gotta go do this and it's gotta be a really nice place to eat and you gotta spend a lot of money, at least $100. It's
Yeah,
weird.
but the difference is like we've allowed it to be like that because we have followed exactly what was said before us instead of changing it ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like first dates don't have to be expensive. They don't have to like they could be really cheap if you wanted to. Like
No, they
it doesn't.
don't, but social media and society tells you they do, and that's the
Yes,
problem.
exactly. So we've kind of stuck with the monkey brain aspect of okay, gifts, 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 spoil in a sense, take her to the fanciest place because that'll impress her, even though I never go here ever and we won't ever again. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like
Yep.
I think that's also like the expectations and the kind of facade that goes along with the first dates is people will take others out to really fancy restaurants and then every other date if they continue that relationship it's never like that ever
Yeah.
again. And even like on special dates they still don't take him to that, like, you know what I mean? Like it's like a weird thing that it's like it's just like a first impression, like trying to impress this person, like, look that I can spend this money on you, date me again. And
Very
then
much
the
so.
next date is like Netflix and chill at
Yes.
my house doing nothing, spending nothing on you. You know what I mean? Like it's like I said, it's the weird curtain when you pull that curtain back after that first date. It's like it's just like how can I impress this person so they will go on a second date with me?
Yes.
Even if I didn't want to, it's just I don't know. And then I feel like it's also based on like how there's the stupid culture of like how much does he really like me? How much do they really like me? Are they, am I getting picked up in a car? What car are they driving? Where are we going? Where's the restaurant? Is he, going to be cheap? Is he going to not care about it? Then that means he has a lot of money. Did he buy me something? Like, it's weird. It's weird on both aspects of like being the person that's, let's say, in charge of the date, the inviter, and then
The
being the,
inviter versus the invitee.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird. It's such a weird expectations for both sides and both parties of it, of just it being, like I said, just even like the etiquette of it being like the small fucking things that you see, in rom-coms and shit like that. Does he open the door? Do they do this? Like, is my chair pulled out? Does he push my chair in? Is he ordering for me?
Yes.
Just like everything you see in just like I said, cringy rom-coms and shit like that. It's just, it's weird. And especially as like a woman growing up as a little kid, you get so in the culture of it, of like the expectations put on men for it too.
Right.
And you get
Yeah, there's
so
definitely
you get
there's
so
definitely
disappointed
a
that
lot of expectations that are set forward, because I mean, even like the same way you're saying, like growing up, I'm sure you were told like, okay, well, when you go on the date, the guy always pays because it's a respectful thing to do, and blah
yes,
blah
yes,
blah. And it's the same thing that, young men are taught as well, is like, okay, well, if you go
do
on a
this for a
date,
girl.
always make sure that you pay, always make sure that you at least offer to pay, have flowers, have this, have that, have a gift or anything like that. And all that does is go back to medieval courtship. That's all that is. And we've been
Yeah,
doing it for thousands of years, and
yeah,
that's been the status quo. I mean, I'd say up until like the 2000s, because that's whenever the real big like empowerment movement started like actually taking hold, to where people are like, okay, we don't necessarily have to do all these societal norms. And like that's when you started getting like the even more pronounced like women's empowerment. Like obviously it's always been there, but it's a lot more noticeable in modern
yeah,
times.
yeah.
And because of that, I think it has started to kind of change the norm, but we're also at such a weird point in even first dating culture, where like a first date is like, okay, let's go get McDonald's, come back to my house and fuck. Like that's,
Or not even fed. It's like,
or not
hey,
even
just
fed, or it's
come
just,
over.
hey, just come over. I'm just trying to smash and
But
leave.
but what I'm saying is like that's to me that's not really considered a first date. I'm talking about like if we're gonna go
I agree,
do it
but what I'm
properly.
saying about it is
It's like,
like
yeah, that's what it is. It's
that's
very
what people
normal.
are, that's the normalcy of it, is like people are like, oh, okay, well that was our first date. Instead of like, no, a first date is you take someone out, you show them a good time, you know, but you're supposed to go in with no expectations of like you're going to get something in the end. And I feel
But
like that's where everyone fucks up.
not even everyone, but like 95% of men and
A good portion of them.
95% of men and 99% of dates that I've been on
Yeah, they're
is
just like,
expected. Oh, I
let's just
paid for
fuck.
your
I paid for your $30 meal, so you owe me. Like that's,
yeah, 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 and that
it's a
like I said that
weird foreign concept to me
we covered
personally.
we covered the like dark aspect of that in the obsessions that episode that we did where we kind of talked about how weird first dates can be and how expective men are of that, of like
Right.
you bought me and I used to be so bad about this too. I used to make the joke with my friends all the time is like, well, if you buy me a steak dinner, the least I could do is suck your dick. And I
Yeah.
hate like looking about that. I hate that about myself. Is like that was a joke I made lightly because that's just what fucking happened all the time.
Yeah,
Like, it was
I
either
mean,
Netflix
that's
and chill
normal.
dates it was Netflix and chill dates, or I was getting taken out on these dates, and I felt obligated to have sex with the person, not them, like, demanding sex out of it, but I was like, "I feel bad that you bought me a dinner,
Right.
like,
You spent your
the
money, so
the
it's the
least
least I can do.
at least I could do is touch your wee wee," And
Yeah,
I
and
hate
that's, and
that.
as much as it's like, yeah, hey, do you girl, do whatever, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do, but it's like that sucks.
It's a
That's
weird
sad that
pressure.
that's the thought that goes through, you know, a lot of
Women's heads.
girls' heads around our age is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, it really sucks. And like as one who, like I said, watch as growing up watching these rom-coms and being like how dated it is, like most of the time you see in the rom-coms, like they're having sex on the first date, they're doing this on
Yep.
the first date, and you kind of like how I was like, well, I have a whole nother episode I want to do on just like toxic relationships and stuff
Oh
like
yeah,
that down the
Hollywood
road.
is a
Um,
big contributor of why the culture is the way that it is.
well, I meant an aspect like I have a whole episode I want to do on toxic relationships like that I've been in, but just the men that also I don't wanna say don't know any better, but that's also all they were taught was, like, you're like, the women's expected to put out on the first date. It gets ingrained in you, like, even as a teenager when you're going on these dates. I mean, you guys are, like, you know, hormone-filled monsters. That's, like, all we are, you know, as
Yeah.
humans during that age. So it's like sex is you're like, "Yeah, blah, 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 blah," like, it's not a big deal. And then but then you get into college too, and it's like, felt like I felt even more obligated
Yeah, I feel more pressure.
to, like
Which that's just a human experience because like I
yeah,
mean, me personally, I felt like whenever I was done with high school and it was like college time and it's like, okay, well now there's a whole new
casual
level of
sex is huge. Yeah,
expectations when it comes to, you know, dating somebody because, you know, hookup culture is such a big part of our
prominent thing.
society.
Yeah,
Um so I always had the not even really the pressure, but just the
and, like, starting to experience this is almost, like, 10 years ago for us
exactly.
of, like
That's the thing to think about. Yeah, it's been about 10 years since college times for me.
yeah,
And it's crazy to think about that because like who I was then versus who I am now are two very different people.
as it should
Um
be,
yeah,
honestly, like,
exactly.
as
Exactly.
it
It's
should be
part of the
as we
growth.
grow.
Um but thinking back on that and it's so weird because it's like, ugh, it's almost cringy when you start thinking about
Yeah,
it because you're just like,
yeah.
ew,
Oh, I can't
ew.
wait. Well, also, folks, we also will have, I think by the time school starts around next time, I wanna do our high school series where we do, like, each grade like we did our middle school series, and then we'll do, like, a whole college series where we will just tell you even more cringy stories about us. But yeah, it's yeah, you don't wanna be the same person you were in high school, you don't wanna be the same person you were in college, you wanna have
Yeah.
growth. So be glad that you're not that same person. Like, you know, people are always like, "Ugh, you know, I used to be like this." It's like, "Well, glad you're not that anymore." You know?
Yeah. Seriously.
You wanna be happy that you don't act like yourself in college or you don't act like yourself at a certain time, like, you wanna have that growth in your life. But yeah, it's a very weird dynamic depending on, like, what age you are or what time in your life it was. Like, the dating aspect does change, and it will keep changing. Luckily, I'm married, and we don't gotta do that anymore.
So true.
But so we talked about the Netflix and chill thing, which brings me up to, like, the next topic before we kinda get into, like, Stoney and I telling stories. Sex on a first date. Um, yes or no for you?
I'll say yes, only well, I don't know, it depends. It really depends.
No, I meant, like, against it in a sense, like,
Oh,
do
no,
you
I'm not against it, no.
yeah, so you're not one of those people that are like, "Ugh, wait till the 3rd date." You know,
No.
like the rom-com movies where it's like they wait 30 days or it's 3 dates in and you should be like, there was a rule that I like that goes around. I know you guys I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like the rule as a girl was like, never have sex on the first date, wait till at least date 3, if you're going to do it. Date like, at least 3 dates in, at least. Or, you know, some people will do 3 months of dating before they even fuck. And for me, I'm 100% sex on the first date. 100%.
Yeah,
Um,
it goes back and forth because really it's dependent on, 1, the person, but also, like, did you enjoy yourself? Did you have a good time? Like, there's a lot of
I meant
factors that go into it.
beside all that, besides, like, getting technical with it.
Well, there's a lot of factors. For me personally, there's a lot of factors that go into it because, like, I think sex on the first date, yes, only because, like, let's go ahead and get that out of the way because that can be a make or break for a lot of relationships.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Like,
Yes!
why
Yes!
why wait, you know, to where you already start developing, you know, some sort of feelings or semblance of what you think might become feelings, and then you're like, cool, all that's great, but the sex is trash, which isn't all everything, obviously, but it is a big part of the relationship. And like if it ain't gonna work, then it's not gonna work. You might as well cut your loss at the beginning instead of, stringing someone along when ultimately you're like, the sex was
This
trash. I don't like it.
not even just the sex is trash, but I agree with that aspect 100%. It's like sex is very if you do it on the first date, you kind of can get a vibe on what it's going to be like. I have had times where I had sex on the first date and I've been like, yeah, this is good and it's led to more dates, or yeah, it's really bad. Never mind. I'm glad I didn't waste my time.
Yeah.
Then I have the times where I've not had sex on the first date and I've gone on like 3 or 4 dates. And that's like,
Mhm.
weeks of talking to somebody. Then you finally have sex with them and you get them most sick. You're like, never mind. Never mind. Worst
Yeah.
sex of my life. Like, I've been on both sides of that corn. So like corn.
Both sides of that corn, huh?
Both sides of that
Eating
coin.
both sides of the husk.
Both sides of that cob. That's a
Fucking
new
weirdo.
saying. Both sides of the cab. But like I've been on both sides of that coin where it's like you
Corn.
wait, you wait, and it's horrible. You wait and it's good. You don't wait and it's good. You don't wait, it's horrible. So it's like I've been on those 4 different versions of what it could be. And my biggest thing is like kind of what Stoney said is like it depends on if it's good or bad. I will go a step further because we are so sex positive on our everything that we do in life, obviously.
Right.
You could have somebody who has a like you guys have good sex, right?
But
But
they're a
like
terrible person.
no, that part
I was like, you've experienced that. I've
more a
experienced
lot of
that.
that. I
You're
meant
like,
in an
oh wow,
aspect
that
of,
was
like
great. Too bad this person fucking sucks.
yeah, that part. Um, I feel like it goes deeper in a sense of that. It's sex on the first date. Is the sex gonna be good? Then you have an underlying layer of it of like any sex can be good if you try hard enough for it. The second layer would be like, do your likes and dislikes go together during the sex? Do you have certain fetishes or kinks that you like? And then it's like an extra layer of that. Like, do they like this? Do they like that? It's a weird.
It's a
Is
weird
it
will they
gonna
won't they.
work? Yeah. Is this gonna work because I liked getting pegged, but that person does not like pegging. No more dates. You know what I
Straight
mean?
to the top. Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean.
Which honestly, that is a very, very, very common thing to hear. Like,
I mean, everyone has been getting so much more sex positive and being able to talk about sex with anything, even in like the first kind of hours of communicating, you kind of get into a kind of the sexting topics of like,
that is
what
true,
do
yeah.
you like?
Especially
What
in
do
the
you
modern
don't
age, it's
like?
like sexting and just sex
It's
in
not so
general.
serious. It's not
It's
as
not what it
serious.
used to be, where everyone
Yeah.
used to be like, "Oh, we have to keep all this guarded for X amount of time before we even divulge any of this." Now it's kind of
And
like
I think
opening
that's
questions.
because I think that's also because of being queer too. It's like other this is a huge thing in like, queer culture is it's very open because a lot of those relationships are not based around sex, but it's like the sexual liberation of it. And I know a lot of that for like gay men too. And I mean, like I said, really any sexuality that isn't straight, isn't hetero, right? It's it's freeing because you are so closeted from not being able to enjoy what you want to enjoy because of the like heteronormity of like society, right? That like hates, especially nowadays when everyone fucking hates gay everything, right? It's such a
Right.
big deal. You're more likely to talk about what you like and what you don't like in a sense of like there's subcultures in it that is very important of like, okay, well, are you more of a top or a bottom? Are you dom or submissive? There's a
Yeah,
whole
and
dynamic in
that
it.
whole thing kind of goes with just I think sexual relationships in general nowadays.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like,
Yeah.
we can take me and you for instance. That was like one of the first topics we talked about.
Yeah, we took a little
We took
quiz.
the BDSM test to
And I
see
wouldn't even say
where
like
we fell.
I wouldn't even say like BDSM test. It was mainly just like a preference test.
Yeah,
Like
it just
Stoney sent it to me and I was like, and for me, like I'm a sex worker, so that doesn't bother me. Like I like to know if my partner immediately is already sexually compatible, which we were. But it answers a bunch of questions of like not necessarily like it doesn't like give away what the person's like into, but it just categorizes it of like is
Things
this a
you're
good
comfortable with.
yeah, is this a good fit or not? Because there's been situations where you could have sex on a first date and someone's a super fake dom and doesn't not necessarily ask for consent, but gets way too rough because they just that's how they like it, you know? And then they don't take into account that the partner may not be into it as much.
Yeah.
And then that kind of ruins the first date or future dates because you're like, man, that guy just was so rough during sex, yet that person also didn't know that you weren't really into it, even though you were kind of being like, yeah, this is cool. You know, like it's a weird, like complicated aspect of it. But I truly think like it's very important. Like I said,
Know
it's
your
very
sexual partner.
yes, yeah. Or
It'll save
no,
you a
no,
lot
not,
of
not not your partner, but your
well, just
preferences.
know your sexual preferences because it'll save you a lot of headache in the long run, and be firm with your sexual preferences. If you don't like something, don't sit there and just cave to it just because you know someone else likes it.
I have
Stand
been
your fucking
guilty
ground.
of doing that. You know, I've been
Yes.
very guilty,
This
especially
is
as
me. This is me bullying Conway for past actions. Is what this
as
is.
especially as a female. It's I feel like there's such the mindset of like make sure to please the guy, otherwise he's not gonna like want to go out with me again or things like I said. I also have a lot of fucking trauma issues and a lot of other things. So like there's a whole
Yours has
level
a
of
lot of underlying issues with
issues.
it.
Yeah. Um. But just in general, like I think it's very important to know your preferences. So that way if you like it may not come up with it. Like you may be a Mormon who doesn't even talk about it, or you may be like super religious and that's something that you kind of stay away from. That's fine too. Like I've been with people who have been complete virgins and don't really talk about stuff like that or sexed or that's not really something they bring up in the first conversations. But that's also something you need to like talk about is like,
Yeah, you can't just
is
go
it
in there and
comfortable? Is it
yeah.
not comfortable? Is it okay if we talk about this? Like, just
Be
make
communicative. That's the
yes.
one thing that you should take away from this episode. Be communicative. Whether you're married, single, in a polyamorous
Be
relationship,
upfront.
whatever it is, be upfront. Know what you like, and don't be afraid to tell people when you like something, because if you don't, that's where shit gets crisscrossed and
And
why you end up 2 years down the road like, oh, fuck, I should have never even been in this relationship.
yeah, and not even saying, like you don't have to go into super details of, like, things that you fantasize about or things like that, but, like, simple things because, like I said, somewhat you could have 2 doms in a relationship, and then it's, like, it's not fun for anybody. And
Yeah,
then
because then you're
you may
just
like
fighting to
the
see who
person.
can be the more dominating dom, even though
No, no,
both
no,
people are
or
trying
it just
to.
doesn't work, you know? And or
Yeah.
it's like you really like this person, but you find out that, like, they're really into feet and you don't like your feet being touched at all. Like, I've seen that happen where one person really likes, feet, is kind of into that, and the other person, like, could not stand their feet even being touched or even looking at feet. You know what I mean? But they were, like, totally fine before that. You know what I mean? And then it's like, kinda wasting your time and you're like, "Ugh, he was a good person, but we just weren't compatible sexually." So yeah, that kind of goes back to like sex on the first dates. It's really up to you guys. I 100% believe sex on the first date is totally okay and 100% fine. And I don't think anyone should be judged for it because of the um aspects of it. Like no one should be making fun of you if you're listening to this. Don't feel bad about having sex on a first date. If you feel like doing it, go for it. You're your own person. You don't need to rely on your girlfriends or anybody else to make you feel bad whenever they're like, "So how was it? How was your date?" And then you're like, "Oh, we went to this restaurant and it was a really good time and he's really sweet and I really like him." And then they go, "Well, did you fuck him?" And you have to like quietly be like, "No," when in reality you did because you don't
Oh,
want
it's
to be
okay.
judged.
Just in
No.
case anyone is curious, I fucked Conway on the first date.
We'll get
I put out on the first date.
You
Mind you, I said
whore.
I put out because I am the whore.
You
I
whore.
knew I had to put out on the first date.
Stop.
It was my
Well,
duty. I had to put out on the first date. So I don't want to hear anything from you.
so I want to get into speaking of stories. We'll tell our first date story at the very end of this episode. So if you want to hear our first date episode, stay tuned.
First
Let's
date
get
episode.
into our first date story. My bad.
Our first date episode.
So I kind of want to get into the aspects of like first dates, and I want to stray away from high school. I want us to be like, let's.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to start with
College and up.
college and out. We're not going to talk about any first dates. One, because that's like underage stuff, and we
Yeah,
try to
yeah.
really stay away from that.
Yeah. That and
Um,
it's kind of boring.
yeah, and it's like first dates in high school. Cool. What'd you do?
Oh,
You're-
we went to Sonic and then we went to the movies and then we went to this road
or mommy and daddy paid for your first date.
Yeah.
You got to use their card, or they were chaperone. You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna stay away
See,
from
I
that.
can honestly say that was never me.
Yeah, I didn't have that issue either.
I always I didn't really I mean fuck, I didn't really go on dates much until I could buy my own stuff anyway.
Dates were at a school. What are you talking about?
Well,
Dates were sitting by each other at school.
maybe for you, but
We're
I
dating
was
now.
I was somebody who had a vehicle and I had a job, so I had money,
I
so
mean,
I just
before
did
you had a
stuff.
vehicle. That's okay. Anyways,
Well,
stupid.
you also got to
Stupid.
realize before then you weren't really even dating anyone. You saw them at school and you said you were dating.
That's what I'm saying. It's boring. It's stupid. So
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about college and out. So do you have a story you'd like to tell about? These are
So
not. Hang on. These are not our cringy stories yet. Because I have a
yeah,
really cringy
that's
one, and
fine.
Stoney has some.
That's
But
fine.
what was your experience like in college? Say, like what was kind of where you did,
Okay,
or like if
so
you're really interested in somebody.
it's a little different for me because like I didn't go to college that long. I was only in college for like a year. Mine was a little different because at this point, when I started college, I'd already been in the military. I had kind of lived a little bit. Like I wouldn't say I'd lived a lot in the time from high school to then because mind you, it's only like a year and a half, 2
And you
years.
also went to the same
Yeah,
college where your hometown
I
was.
went to the college in the
Where your
town
hometown.
where my high school was.
Yes, I was like,
So
not that
it
different.
wasn't like a big thing. Like I didn't move across to a different state. I didn't go out of state. I didn't like go to a big college. I went to like a D2. So this isn't like anything crazy, but I remember when I went there, like I knew a lot of the people that were there. And then obviously you get the people from other towns and stuff like that, so you get to meet new people. But a lot of it for me was like it kind of felt like high school in a sense because I knew too many of the people
Because of that reason, yeah.
for that exact reason. But once like I guess it was a little different because like with college comes parties and stuff like that, and that's really where I started branching out. I guess is like I started seeing a lot of like some of the same people at parties, and we would mingle here, mingle there. Um, and occasionally that would turn into something a little more.
Plot twist, Tony was a whore in college.
Shut up.
So was I, so it's okay.
So, parties would turn into like going home with people or, the occasional like, okay, hey, that was fun. We had a good time. Hey, do you want to go do something the next day? Or, hey, do you want to like actually give this a shot? Or do you want to try to date or whatever? But I'll be the first one to say most of that was exclusively, you can tell it was about sex. With a lot of that, there was a couple first dates here and there, but there wasn't a whole lot of dating for me. A lot of that was like once I left college, I got out of like a really serious relationship and then just kind of was single for like I don't know, basically 4 years, I think. Yeah, like for 4 years I was pretty much just single. And first dates sucked because like I was living in a new city and I didn't know anybody. So what does every person who doesn't know anybody and wants to try to, meet somebody? Oh, they get on Tinder because they're
And at
stupid.
this time too, I was gonna bring that up on my side, but you brought it up, so that's good. At this time too, Tinder is kind of just coming out. It's like
Yeah,
really
Tinder had been
popular.
out for
Very
like a little bit, like maybe a couple years at this point.
it's very popular in college students too. Like it
Because like
was
mind you, like me
very
on
popular.
Tinder, the first time I ever got on Tinder was like I guess it would have had to have been like 2015.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Tinder was maybe only like it wasn't. This was the surge of like Tinder becoming huge.
Tinder, Yik Yak.
Well, that's what I meant. It's like this is kind of when dating culture was like apps have always been crazy, but like
Yeah.
during this time while we were in college was when Tinder was exploding. Like
Oh yeah,
everyone was
Tinder was
using Tinder,
getting
and like
known
you didn't
as
even have like Bumble wasn't even like noticed yet. Hinge wasn't even like noticed yet. Like people may have you been using them like on the side. I mean Grinder was always there too, duh, but it was one of those things of like it's where the culture shifted.
yeah. Tinder was a big one. But like first dates. So some shittier ones I'd been on were definitely through Tinder. Which I feel like that's a story with a lot of people, but like there's times where like I like put in what I felt like was a lot more effort than was reciprocated. So I would take people on dates. And like one in particular, like I sat there and I had planned the whole thing, and this was after I had gotten off work, and so it would have been like, I don't know, like 8 or 9 o'clock already at that time, which doesn't sound like the latest for a date, but whenever you're working from like 5 in the morning until like 7, 8 o'clock at night, it sucked. Um, so I would, go home, I'd get ready for the date, shower, trim everything up, like my face, everything, whole nine. And I would do that and then get to the point where, I'd get to the restaurant, I would text the person and like let everything be known. And sometimes it would be like, okay, I'm on my way, I'm here, whatever the case may be. But more oftentimes than not, what would happen is I would end up going to the place, and then I'd have to like sit around and wait like another 30, 45 minutes for the person to get there, which might not be the worst thing in the world to some people, but for me, it really sucks. Because I had already spent like the time, that same amount of time doing everything, getting there, doing everything, and after already working all that day, it would suck getting there, and
You're exhausted.
yes, 100%. I'd just be like exasperated, it seems at times, and we would, go to a restaurant, like say a steakhouse, which was, I feel like, the most common
Mm-hmm.
thing that people do, like whether it be like Texas Roadhouse, Saltgrass, whatever. It was either that or for whatever reason a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, just something a normal restaurant, nothing like fucking super fancy, high end, nothing like that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
a
and I mean,
casual date.
yeah, for the most part, it was usually something super casual like that. Now, anytime I would ask someone on a date, I don't know if it was just me, but I would not necessarily dress up, but like clean up.
Decent. Yeah.
Like,
Look
I mean,
decent.
fuck, you've gone on a date with me. You know what I wore to our date.
Yeah, you were decent. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I don't, I don't
Not
just
wear
show up in
clothes.
like a t-shirt and basketball shorts,
Yeah.
which, is fine if that's how you are, be who you are, whatever. That's just not me. So
You tried. You were
yeah, I
trying.
remember this one in particular. Like, I showed up in like just not even anything crazy, like a good button up, a hat, jeans, boots.
Little cowboy
Pretty,
get up.
yeah,
Standard.
pretty standard for me.
Standard.
And I'd cleaned up, so I was freshly showered. I trimmed up everything, and
You're grooming. The grooming aspects, you take your
yeah,
time.
like I took my
You
time
want to
into
smell
stuff.
good. You want
And then I
yeah.
show up, and literally the girl is in Nike shorts, like Nike gym shorts, like
No
a
way.
cutoff t-shirt, like
No,
literally,
like
like,
she just got out of practice of some sort.
yes, that's
Already
what
to
it looked
gym.
like. Yeah. And I was
Jesus.
like, just okay. And then the whole time we were
You
having
feel
this dinner,
overdressed at that point. You're like,
I
cool.
felt very uncomfortable because I was like, cool. I put all this effort in.
She doesn't seem like she cares.
Yeah, yes. And that's
Yeah.
what sucked about it. And
You
it's
still
just
gotta
like,
pay.
yeah. And like, I think at the time I was probably, I think I was like 21, because
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah, I was probably like 21, and I think the girl was like 20. So, I mean, mind you, this is obviously young dating, but still I was kind of like, all right, this is kind of weird. So like, I remember one thing about that one in particular that I guess was the kind of a really big, like, not necessarily pissed me off, but was definitely a big turnoff. I ordered a beer with my steak. Okay.
Yeah.
You know me, anytime we're at a steakhouse, I will typically do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or I will get something to drink with it, because it
As most
just,
people do.
exactly, as someone who is
It's
an
like
adult
getting
can do.
yeah. It's like getting a wine.
I ordered a beer, and this chick did not agree with that. And
Okay,
in her
20-year-old.
words, exactly, I don't think it's fair that you can get a beer, but I can't.
You're 20.
Exactly. It was so uncomfortable because I was just in that moment too, and I was like,
And then
okay.
you didn't want to really drink it now because you're like need
No, I didn't
to.
care. I still drank the beer, and like I drank another one after that because I was just like, this is stupid. And I like, you ever have a date where like you're not even done with the dinner and you're like, this is going absolutely nowhere after
And the
this.
fact that you've been working all day too, you're like, I need this beer
Yes,
if I'm dealing with this right
yes.
now. Yeah.
And oh my god. And so I go on this date, and like I kind of tried to rush things. Like I ate fast. Like, and
You
after
were
the
like,
whole
I'm done with this already.
after the whole beer thing, I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. And I know how I am, so I know I started getting short. like with my answers.
Yeah,
I
probably.
I basically like kind of just like turned it turned completely off. So I was like, whatever. This is
Yeah.
literally I'm just paying for this girl's dinner, and this is clearly what this was thought of. And I was like, okay, fine, whatever, and paid for everything, and then just left. And I was like in and out in there in like an hour, and then like she was like, okay, well, we need to do this again sometime. I had a really good time, and I just kind of like looked at her, and I gave her one of those awkward side hugs, and I was like, yeah, we'll we'll do something, and then I never talked to her again.
But I feel like at the end of the dates that goes along with the etiquette, you know, like we talked about earlier, etiquette of saying, "I hope we do this again." You know, like I feel like it's also the unspoken rule of like, "I had a great time," even though you probably didn't have a great time,
Yeah,
just to be polite. It's just, yeah, it's weird. It's weird. That sucked. That's doesn't sound fun.
yeah, it was very very cringy. Yeah, okay.
Goes home. Yeah.
Then thinks about their decisions, like, oh my
Yeah,
god,
the
why did I
drive
do
home.
this?
You're like, "Neat, neat, neat. Cool, 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 cool."
That's exactly how I felt because I was like,
So,
this was a
uh
colossal waste of time.
yeah. So I have lots of stories. Obviously, it's me, guys. You guys should know this by now. Eventful dating life. So in college, most of like, you know, you're a college kid, you don't have much money. So you're not expecting anything crazy. Like Texas Roadhouse would be like a fancier date night or Olive Garden. You know what I mean? To take somebody on because it's expensive and you're in college. You like I said, you don't really have a lot of that money because you're a student and you're not really working or you're working a lot and you have school and you want to save all your money for yourself. Like I get it. So like usually first dates in college, if we did do them, um, was either like Qdoba or like Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
And most of the time, like, I went to a D1 school, so I had a lot of people that I didn't know. There was a lot of people I didn't know. So I think there's maybe a handful of people from my hometown that went to the same school as me. But even then, like, it was such a big place that it wasn't, you know, like you weren't just like running into them all the time.
Yeah.
And you weren't having to like date them. Like there was plenty of other people to go. And trust me, I made my way in college. I had fun. Let's just put it that way. But if somebody did take you on a date, usually kind of how Stoney said, it'd be like the day after. Like you would like have like not necessarily like a one night stand, but you'd like have a fuck buddy or something. And then like you'd be like, you want to go get something to eat? And you would just go casually. And I would consider that like a casual date, not like a first date, right?
Right.
So like college for me in dating was mainly like Qdoba or Texas Roadhouse. And then when I had my serious relationships, which we'll get, like I said, I'll talk about those, which were extremely toxic. I'll talk about those on another episode, get into more detail. But I did this one guy who relationship didn't work out very well, but he was still a good person. But I dated this guy my sophomore year of college. And this guy had a lot of money. Like his family had a lot of money. So like going out to eat for him like wasn't a big deal in
Mhm.
that sense. Um it was like I think it's like my freshman year into sophomore year, something like that. And this was this date to me like is so memorable because it was one of the first times I ever was at a fancy restaurant before, like an actual like high-end restaurant.
Right.
Um So, we dated, I think, for, like, 4 or 5 months, which in cut college terms is fairly long. He ended up, like, cheating on me and stuff, but I don't expect much when you're dating in college. You know, like, looking back, I don't expect much, but I don't consider him one of, like, the bad people I dated. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, yeah, compared to, like, the trauma that I dealt with throughout college and the rest of the other people I dated, I don't consider this relationship, like, horrendous, right? That's why, like, I will tell the story. Um, so he took me on my very first, like I consider what I call, like, my very first, like, real date. At this point, like, you know, you eat at, like, Texas Roadhouse, you eat at Qdoba or, like, you know, something casual. This was the first time I was ever in a fancy restaurant. And
Right.
I'm talking, like, fancy, like, where the food is expensive. Most of it's market price food.
Yes,
Where
like what we did.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
I, I,
our
I,
wedding.
yeah,
Yeah.
for what we did for our wedding.
Well,
I know what
I'm
you're
setting
talking
the
about.
scene for the audience. So it's also one of those places like where all the waiters and waitresses are like black tie, and it's like semi-formal wear to get into these restaurants, right?
Yes.
And like I said, I was very excited because like I grew up really poor at this time in college too. I didn't have any money, so like this was an experience for me. And like I said, this person had tons of money, so he was able to take me on this date, no problem. It was really good. Uh, we had steaks and we had a good time. The craziest thing that tripped me out the most was like the rules, the etiquette of fancy restaurants is so weird to me.
It's very strange.
Um, it freaks me out a little because it's like I say this all the time, no matter where I'm at. I'm too white trash to be in super nice restaurants, no matter where I am. And now I'm so comfortable with myself, I could be in a fancy restaurant and not give a shit. You know what I mean? But I'm too poor to even be in these environments, is what I feel like. Very out of place. It was one of those restaurants where, you know, when you have like crumbs on the table, you kind of just like wipe them off, right? You kind of just like, you like move them out of the way. It was one of those fancy restaurants where they have somebody who their only job is to wipe crumbs off of your table. And they have this little scraper thing that like they swipe delicately across the table and then like swipe it into this like little small what looks like a tiny dustpan.
Yeah,
Um
they've got someone who actually cleans everything up for you.
And it's like as you're eating. So it's like you'll be sitting there. There's one person who's like giving you wine. There's one person who's, you know, refilling the bread or something. And then you have one person whose only job is the crumb cleaner. And
Yeah, and those
that
are
freaks me
also the
out.
same places that like you take one drink out of any of your glass and it'll be filled by the next time you go to grab
Yeah,
for it. Like it's just
it was
obnoxious.
hand and foot waiting. And that was such a memorable experience. And like I still thank that person for like taking me on that date and like letting me experience something. But to him, like that was so casual.
Yeah.
Like, to him, like, that he's been on even fancier restaurants than that.
Yeah, like
And
I
that
remember my
was, like
first time at a
that
fancy
was that
coffee
was
place.
blowing my mind because I was like, "Oh my god," like and I felt bad, like, I was, like, getting ready to put my lipstick on at the table, and he goes, Hey, don't do that here." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Go to the bathroom and do that." He's like, "Don't." But I was like, "I have my hand mirror right here. I'll just put my, you know, redo touch on my lipstick right here." And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. You gotta get up and go do that in the bathroom." And I was just so like, "What the fuck?" Like, it was so I definitely felt way out of place. So that was, like,
Yeah.
the first time and that was in college too, right?
Yeah.
So that was the first time I've ever experienced, like, a fancy restaurant on a date. But I don't consider that my first adult date, you know, because like I said, we're still in college. And I was also that wasn't like a first date either. That was just dating, you know?
Right.
So the story of like my first actual adult date out of college that was considered like a first date, also very memorable. So at this time I lived in Houston. And Houston is one of the biggest cities in the entire world, so there's tons of places to go on dates. There's tons of things to do. It's a good atmosphere for dating in a sense of like if you have people that will take you out, you're gonna have a good time. You know what I mean? Like it's not just like I said, stopping at a Texas Roadhouse and do that. Like no, there's really nice, even just bistros. It doesn't have to be like a fancy restaurant. All right. So I went on this date with this. I think he was an engineer, if I remember, and I matched with him on Tinder, and he happened to live like right by the like school I was going to at that time in Houston. Which also was, like, convenient to me because I was like, I'll date this guy so I don't have to, like, drive an hour to my school. I can just, like, stay at his place, you know? Loopholes, girls, loopholes. Find it. Find your convenience. Anyways, so I matched with this guy on Tinder, and he was, like, really nice. He was actually, like it wasn't that, like, "Hey, let's fuck and hook up" type of thing. Like, sometimes on Tinder, you get, like, people that, like, genuinely, like, wanna go out and, like, take you out and shit. And this guy wanted to take me out. And I was like, "Awesome. Yeah, sure, like, we'll go on a date, whatever." And he goes, "Okay, if you want to, you can drive to my place, and then I can, you know, we can just Uber from my place because this place was, like, in the city, and I lived in, like, South Houston, and he, like, lived in, like, kind of a fancy area as well. And he's like, "We can just Uber from my place, that way, just in case we feel like drinking or anything like that. Like, he's like, and then I can Uber you home if you need to, or like whatever. And I was like, okay, no big deal. So I go to his place. He lives in this like really nice apartment complex. And I was like, oh shit, okay. Um, he obviously has some money for himself. He's doing good. He's an engineering job. They pay well. And he told me like, wear something nice. Like, I'm gonna take you out to dinner at this really good place. So he also sent me the place too. So like I could kind of catch the vibe of like what I wanted, like what it was. And it was a really nice, I would say, like, not like super fancy, but like semi-formal place. Like, people wear button-ups and dresses, and you know what I mean? Like, people go on dates there. And like I said, this is also in Houston. So people actually do look nice when they go out on dates most of the time in these places. And I remember like we Ubered from his apartment to the restaurant, and oh no, he drove us. He drove us that. He got like a valet because most of the places in there you have to anyways. And we went inside and like pulled my chair out for me and put me in, the chair. He was very complimentive.
I don't know what you're trying to say, so I don't
Like
know.
somebody who gives you compliments all the time. He was very complimentary.
I don't know.
Anyways, you guys know what I mean. You guys know what I mean.
I don't know. I don't. That's
words are hard.
words are hard.
Anyways, he's like giving me compliments. He like, opened doors for me, opened my chair, pushed me in.
He opened your chair.
He opened my chair. He like put me in the chair.
Okay, I think they get it.
He was like, he knew a lot about the wine, so he's like, I'll order you a wine for you. He's just like, it was very nice. Like, it was a very nice date. And then we had really good food, and that was it. And then we went home, and we were drinking a little bit, so like we fucked and we had sex, and then that was really nice too. I was like, okay, this is awesome. And then I think I dated him for like maybe 2 months out of that. And then he kind of just like stopped talking to me, so that was cool. But yeah, that was like my first actual date as an adult, of like not just going out. Like, I've been out like dancing and like dinner and a dance, but like more casual, you know what I mean? But that was the first time that like I've sat down. It felt like I was in a movie, like the rom-com movies, you know what I mean? Like, it genuinely kind of like felt like that, in a sense of like, oh, this is like what I've seen dates be like. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of, I was like super nice dude, doing all these things, cool restaurant, into the night, sex, cool. Like, it wasn't like, oh my god, I'm in a rom-com, but it was just like, oh, at that point I was like, oh, so this, like, that point in my life I was like, oh, so this is how adults date. I was like, this is what it's like to like
go on a real date.
Go on a real date. Because up until this point, like, I was never on a real first date. Nothing like that. I've never experienced anything like that. And it was really nice. I was like, wow. So it's not saying like all dating's bad. Majority of it is. But it's so nice to get that every once in a while where you're like, wow, like, I actually had fun. Like, this, I didn't have to worry about, anything at that moment. I was just enjoying like being a grown up, which is also weird to think about at that time. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm a grown up now. And that was a date. And then, cool. You date people.
Yeah.
And then my other one that I had before I tell, like, me and Stoney tell our cringy stories, like the really bad dates. I had one other date. It was I just moved to Houston. The day after I moved to Houston, I matched with this guy on Tinder, and he's like, oh, you're new in town. And now he was like, yeah, which is also, I've told Stoney about the story plenty of times. I still talk to him. This guy's great. He's awesome. He was like, oh, you're new. Like, let me take you out. Like, let me just show you around. He's like, I don't expect anything. He's like, I just, you're literally new here. Like, let me show you. And he took me out to Galveston, which was like super close to where both of us lived at that time, rather than like having to go all the way to Houston. We went down to Galveston, and he took me out to dinner, and then he took me out to one of his favorite like two-step bars, or like dancing honky tonks, whatever the fuck you want to call them. And all we did was like really drunkenly dance and make fun of all of the people doing the stupid line dances there. That's what we did. And then at that same time, I so happened to met one of my really good friends that same exact night. I met her and her boyfriend. Unfortunately, her and I don't really talk anymore at all. Kind of fell out, but she was a really awesome friend down there for me, and I met her the same exact night as well. So it was really cool to not know anybody in the city. I just moved here. Literally the next day, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, I need to, get a job down here and figure everything out before, school starts or whatever." And I had just happened to meet two really awesome people that, you know, showed me a lot of South Texas and like Austin and San Antonio. Like it was one of those cool moments too of like when you say yes to dates, not knowing
Yeah.
how they would be. They can turn into like, even though him
They
and
can
I
turn into
aren't
life
dating,
experiences.
yeah, him and I aren't dating anymore. Like he's still a really good person and we still catch up every now and then. Like he's met a lot of our friends and everything like that. I think that's really cool. It's still like these little moments in your life that like connect you to other people that happen to like the branch effect where everything just like spreads out and then there's more experiences from this and this and this. So literally later that week was the really big motorcycle rally in Galveston. And he had a motorcycle and I didn't know that. And he was like, "Hey, do you want to go?" And I was like, "Well, I've never been." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'll take you." And then we spent 2 days doing that, and that was an insane experience too, and there wasn't any pressure for it. It wasn't like, "Are we dating? Are we doing this?" Like, he genuinely was doing it out of, like, "Would you like this experience down here? Let me show you
Yeah.
around." And I love people like that. Like, even if you're not wanting to, like, go fuck people or anything like that, being the person that shows people things is, like, you're so memorable to that person. Like, you really are. No matter on, like, any level. Like, I've been that person for a lot of people, like, giving people experiences and being like, "Hey, let's go do this." And then they're like, "Wow, like, that was really cool. I'm glad to do that." And then there's, like, no anything sexual involved. It's mainly just the life experiences that you're like, "Wow, that was really cool." And that's kinda like how my life in Houston started. And that's awesome. And then, like, Conway came out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's just this weird how things connect in your life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but that was, like, my only other, I would say, like, first real date was, like, the really nice date where I got taken to a fancy restaurant in Houston, and then the other one where it was, like, a fun, casual date with, like, nothing really mattered. You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't any pressures of it or, like, "Oh, I expected to do this, 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 and this later," you know? It was those are, like, the 2, like, really fun times I think I've had on dates, besides, like I said, we're gonna tell me and Stoney's time, but, like, before Stoney was in the picture, most of the time it was really bad. Most of the time it was, like, really bad, and dates were horrible, and before I keep rambling, obviously, um, and I tell my, like, really bad, cringy first date that, like, you guys are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Stoney, do you have one you would like to tell? Like, a
Uh,
cringy one, like, where
a
you're just like,
cringy one.
"Oh my god," yeah, or it was, like, the worst date you've ever had.
Well, that one with the one who got
Nike
really
shorts
weird.
girl.
Yeah, she was up there on bad dates. I don't know. There's been a couple bad ones, like, but the ones that are I think the worst for me are the ones where like either someone doesn't want to go on the date or whatever, but they wait until the very last minute.
They blow you off?
Yes.
Have you ever
Like,
been stood up?
oh, God, yes.
I've
I've
been
been
stood up a lot of
I've been
times, and
s
people are
I've been
like,
stood up a few times, and it's always the weirdest thing because like, the worst one that I can think of, like, times I got stood up is when I drove an hour somewhere at the
"Mhm,
place, and I text them like, "Okay, I'm here," and then they just don't respond, and I sit there and
yep,
wait, like, an extra 30 minutes,
yep."
and then I'm like, "Okay, whatever, I give up," and then I just leave, and then they wanna try to text like, "Sorry, I didn't know how to say anything." It's like, "So you knew I was driving an hour away?"
I've been there. I have been stood up so many times, and now you guys are like, "Oh my god." Like, it's kinda like guys get stood up more than girls, right? Like, that's the stereotype, but it's like, no, guys, like, I have been stood up so many fucking times. Like, I have driven like Sony hour to go do something. I have spent a lot of money to go do that. You like shave all of your bits and pieces, all your legs, your arm, you shave, you exfoliate, you do all of the steps just for somebody to cancel the date on you or the plans, or you get there and like I said, they stood you up. Like
Right.
it sucks. Have you ever been like catfished or someone did not look at all what like their picture looked like when you would meet them on a first date? I mean, because like now in this age, like we have like Snapchat and everything like that. But like, have you ever been on a date where you're like, this is you are not this person?
I mean,
Because we all have seen the TV show Catfish. Like we grew up,
kind of.
all of us watched a
There's
lot of
really
that.
there's only one time that ever really happened to me, and it happened when I was in college. Like, and it wasn't necessarily I got catfished per se. It's they perceived themselves as something different. Like they used angles to an advantage, if that makes sense.
Okay, and you're not like shaming, but
No,
it
just
was just
it
not what
happened.
you
It was
it's not
not
what
what
you
it
expected.
was not what I was led to believe it was gonna be.
I
And I,
understand
like,
that.
showed up and, like, I was like, no. Okay, this is
No, thank
that's not
you.
cool."
You're like, neat, 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 cool,
Yeah.
cool, 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 cool. You're just like a
Yep.
Ah.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
okay. So you don't have any other stories you would like to share before I jump into this
No,
really detailed.
you can go ahead and
All right,
tell
guys.
your long
So
story.
this one's somewhat long. I want to set the scene for you. I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget because there's a lot of little weird details in it. I mean, I could sum it up very quickly, but I think it's more fun to like tell a story. You know what I mean? Um, and then after this, we'll talk about Stony and I's first dates. Like I said, stick around. Okay, so I was living in Houston at the time. Still like dating around, just having, enjoying myself in a new city that had so many people, tons of people. I matched with this guy on Tinder whose profile said they were 21. He told me he was 21. And I was like, okay, sure. We snapped and I think like texted for a little bit, like off of Tinder. So I knew he was real. I like knew what he looked like. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like no catfish situation here, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, I want to take you like on a date. How can we make this happen? And I was like, okay. And he lived in like North Houston and I lived in like South Houston, which is like an hour. So since the place that he wanted to take me was like around the North Houston area, I was like, oh, okay, I'll just drive up there. And then I'll just drive home. Cause like at this time I was like, also girls, if you know this, like if you don't shave or anything, it's like guaranteed of like, I'm not having sex on a first date. Like you like that's like you're telling yourself in my mind at this time, as I was 21 at this time, in my mind at myself, I was like, I didn't shave, so I'm definitely not having sex on the first date. Like I was just like, no. Like it also like mentally tells yourself like no 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 no. Like you just no. So I get ready, I do my hair, my makeup, I put on this cute outfit. And he was like, okay, why don't you come over to my place? And then we can go to, this nice, really nice place I want to take you. And I was like, oh, that's fine. Like, no big deal. I understand because it's like I'm an hour away. There's no sense of like you coming to get me and then like driving us all the way back an hour. You know what I mean? Like, we'll just like kind of meet in the middle, right?
Right.
And he's like, oh, you could just come over to my place. And then we can leave from there. And I was like, sure, like no problem. Like I said, I'm always extra safe too in all of these scenarios. So I drove over to this guy's place. And all of his roommates were there in the living room when I got there. He like came out and, like got me from my car and was like, oh, like it's so nice to see you. You kind of give like a nice little hug or whatever. And you're like, oh, hey. Um, and then he's like, okay, well, we'll go inside real quick. I gotta grab, or he's like, I gotta change my shoes or something like that. He's like, I gotta do something real quick in the house. I said, okay. So I go inside his house, and all of his roommates were in the living room, and they were all playing like video games. I think they were playing Call of Duty or some shit. Which I don't mind. Like I don't mind that shit. It doesn't bother me. And I'm pretty dressed up, because like I said, he told me that we were going something really nice. So I was like, okay, made sure dressed nice, and everything like that. It was so awkward. I was sitting on his couch watching his roommates play the video games, and they were being so loud and obnoxious, which is, like I said, fine because you're playing games and it's your house. Who gives a shit? But it was just like I was just sitting there, just like awkwardly. I'm like the new person in the environment, just like just trying to make small talk, which is not also fun for someone who's autistic but didn't know they were autistic at this time. um, and it turns out that the guy comes back from changing his shoes or whatever he was doing, and he sits down on the couch, and then we proceed to sit on the couch for 2 more hours watching him and his roommates play video games. I was like, okay.
Yikes.
And then he goes, hey, like, are you hungry? And I said, oh, yeah, like, I'm really hungry. Like, I didn't eat after work because you said we were going to go, out to dinner. So I was just sitting there, like, trying to be polite, just being like, okay, maybe we'll leave in any time, but I don't want to be like, hey, are we going to go? You know what I mean? Which at the time I should have. Looking back, I should have been a total cunt. And I was like, yeah. And then he goes, hey, guys, are you guys hungry? Talking to his roommates.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, yeah, we're hungry. So him and I walk outside, and we walk to his car, and he kind of like opens the car, and I'm about to get in his car. And he goes, oh, no, I'm just grabbing my wallet. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, you can go get in Bob's truck. That's not his name, but like, let's pretend. You can go get in Bob's truck. And I was like, oh, okay. And then that's where I realized that we were all going out to eat together.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what the fuck is like, what?
What is going on?
So not only am I in my nice clothes, I jump in this dirty ass, basically a blue collar truck. Snacks and trash everywhere, dirt everywhere. In the back seat with his friend while his roommates drove us.
That's weird.
So this is where I was realizing, like, this is not a solo date anymore. Like, we're going all out to eat. Like, that's weird. We're supposed to go someplace nice. Like, what the fuck is going on? So not only are they like, I have no idea where we're going, they're blaring music with their fucking subwoofers, so just like ring. Everything's vibrating. And I'm like, am I in high school again? Like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I was so confused, but I also just letting myself go with it, because also I was in the truck. I couldn't go anywhere. My car is at the, you know what I mean? I was like, neat, cool.
Hey, you're kind of stuck in that situation.
Stuck at this point. So then they're blaring the music, and we drive, and I see those golden arches. And where were we going?
McD's, baby. Mickey.
McDonald's.
McDowell's.
At this point, I am so confused. I genuinely am confused. I'm like, are his roommates just grabbing something to eat? Like, are we still going to our like nice restaurant that you said you were going to take me to? Like, what is going on? Like, in my mind, I'm like, what the fuck is happening right now? So they all proceed to order. My date proceeds to order, and then looks at me and goes, what do you want? It's like, what the fuck? Okay, so I just ordered something from McDonald's, and I ordered like something small because I was thinking, oh, maybe, we're just like getting them food or something, just being nice, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're gonna go eat later or something. So like I ordered something like maybe like a 10-pack nugget. I didn't order like something burgers or big, I just was like something, one thing, right? And then the worst part, he goes, hang on. He goes, he's like opening his wallet, and he goes, oh, fuck. And I was like, what? He goes, I forgot my card in my room. He's like, I took my card out of my wallet, and it's in my room. And none of his roommates brought any money. And I said, oh, don't worry about it. I got it. So I paid for everyone's McDonald's, because you're already the McDonald's side. Food's already ordered. It's already made. And at this point, I still didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, that happens sometimes. Like you take your card out.
That happens sometimes.
I don't fucking know. I was like, oh shit, no one brought any money. Like, I got it. Don't worry about it. So I paid for everyone's McDonald's, including the roommates, plus my dates, plus mine. Like I said, which I didn't mind. It was okay. So then we head back. We got the food. We head back to their place as they're blaring some shitty song the entire way there. It's just rattling subwoofers so fucking loud. And we get back and we're all like sitting in the living room and everyone's like stuffing their faces with food. I'm like, eating my chicken nuggets, just kind of like waiting for like, I guess my date and I to like leave, I guess.
Right.
And then as they're stuffing their face, they continue to play more video games. And I'm thinking they're like, oh my fuck, am I going to be like sitting here for another 2 hours watching this before they decide again what they wanted to do? I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I finally kind of like spoke up and I was like, hey, I thought we were going somewhere. No, I said, hey, like, I thought we were going to go somewhere really nice. Like, are we still doing that? Or like, because if this is like a casual time, like, sure, fine. Like, you're welcome to chicken nuggets. So like, what's going on? And he's like, oh yeah, we can. He's like, so he tells the roommates bye and we go get in his car. And what I could only say is like pulls a scene, like an acting scene out of his hat, right?
Right.
He pulls out his phone and he goes, oh, well, damn. The place I wanted to take you is closed now. And he's like, but I have something else we could go do instead. Do you just want to go to a bar? Is that okay? Do you just like gonna go to a bar? And at this point, I'm like, sure, fucking give me a drink. What the fuck's happening? I don't care. Let's go get a drink at a bar, whatever. He's like, you don't mind, do you? And I was like, no, that's fine. Like I said, thinking nothing of it at this time. I was just like, whatever, like, let's show, I guess we're not going to somewhere nice. Like, a bar is fine. We can go listen to some music and hang out, I guess. Sure, whatever. Like, that's not too bad of a date either,
Yeah.
So I thought. So, at this time, too, I was like, oh my God, fucking beer sounds so good after dealing with this guy for 3 hours of just, like, nonsense and not doing anything solo or anything, right?
Right.
And mind you, like, I'm not really, like, interested in this dude. I'm trying to see if I am. Like I said, you're just on the date. I'm already in the situation. We're just gonna see it out. Worst thing it is, like, I get a beer and I can go home. No big deal, right?
Right. Or so you thought.
So I thought. So he proceeds to take me to, like, I wouldn't even call this a dive bar. I would call this, like, a rundown bar.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call this a dive bar. I would be like, what the fuck is this? And it is a busy Saturday night in Houston. There is maybe 4 people in this place, including the workers. But it's kind of like a pool hall though. So I was like, okay, maybe that's why it's not really busy because like people are going to the clubs in Houston. You know what I mean? Like there's tons of options. So like I was like, oh, it's a pool hall. So like, like we're gonna play some pool and like drink if we do.
Yeah, that would.
So I was
that's
like,
what would make sense.
I was like, fine, I'll just play some pool, drink a beer or something. And this was the type of place also that had toddlers running around the bar, like behind the bar. Like they had like kids behind the bar there. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? But at this point, I was just like, let's see what happens. Like, I just was like so into this story of like, what is going on that I needed to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there's a lot to it to unpack.
Yeah. So we get in this place. He orders his drink. And I was like, at this point, I was like, I don't even want a beer. I was like, just give me a water. Cause at this point, I was like, I can get ready to go home. I'm gonna drive home. Like, I don't even want nothing, right? I was like, I want to get out of here. But I was like, I'll play a thing of pool. Cause at this time, I also was like, I still like pool. But at this point, I was like really getting into pool. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. Like, just play pool. Who cares? Who cares about what's going on? Just, I gotta play pool, And so he orders his drink. And then we're into probably, I think, like our second game of pool. Because it doesn't really take very long when it's just like 2 people, right?
Right.
And I think there was like maybe 2 other couples in this pool hall. So it wasn't like horrendous, you know what I mean? Like dingy or anything. But it was like not the best pool hall. Let's just put it that way. And not necessarily a dive bar either. Because it wasn't a lot of reoccurring people there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So an hour into our date, I would say, he starts like laughing. And I was just like, what's up? And he goes, I'm surprised I got in. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I'm only 19.
Ew.
I used my roommate's ID. And I literally was like, I froze. I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, no, I'm 19. I had to, he's kind of like talking quietly so no one hears him. He's like, I'm 19. I had to like and he shows me his roommate, which was the guy who was driving the truck, shows me his
Gross.
roommate's ID. And I literally was like, in my head, I was like, this motherfucker told me he was 21. I just paid for his McDonald's. This motherfucker's 19.
He's
I
a
was like, are you
child.
fucking kidding me? Yeah, I was so mad. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah. I literally just turned like 19 like a couple months ago. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Cool, cool. Like fucking just what is happening right now? Like, oh my God. So
Yeah, that's a what the fuck
not
moment.
not only was he not allowed to drink, he got into this dingy bar because they probably didn't care because it's a dingy bar. And I paid for his McDonald's for all his roommates as well.
Yeah, and they're all probably about that age.
Well, most of them were because like one of them got to use his actual ID, you know?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
So I don't, like I said, I wasn't drinking at this point, so it didn't even matter. And I was like, hey, I have work in the morning. And he's like, oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna just go.
No, he said, oh, yeah, I forgot you told me you have the early shift. And I was like, yeah. I was like, and remember at this point, he's already wasted 3 hours of my time at his house
Yeah.
watching them play games and eating McDonald's. And then we spent like another hour and a half at this pool bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's gotten a good 4.5 hours of me on this date. And I was like, it's getting really late. Like I still have to drive an hour back, you know, because that's about how far it is from Northeast and Southeast, and you know, with traffic and everything, especially on like a Saturday night. I was like, I still got to get back. Like I got the brunch shift tomorrow morning. Got to be there early. Like I'm tired. It's been a long week. I had work this morning. Blah blah blah. And he's like, yeah. No problem. That's fine. So we get back to. We leave the place. He drives me back to his house or his like apartment townhouse thing or whatever. And I like immediately grabbed my keys and I was like, okay, well I gotta go. Like it's already late, so like I really gotta get on the road, whatever. And he like proceeds to like go, oh well, do you need gas money? Because like I could like, you know, you could drive me to the gas station. I'll like use my card and like fill your tank up or something. And I was like, no, like it's fine. Don't worry about it. And then he goes, oh, okay, but like, can we do this again sometime? Like, I had a really good time. This is like super fun. Are you gonna like, can we like hang out again? And I said,
No.
I don't really know. Like, I'm so tired. I just want to get home. Like, I don't know. And he goes, okay, well, like, make sure text me when you get home. So I know you got home safe. Like, he's trying to be like, oh, you know, polite and shit. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. Like, I was being honest. Like, I wasn't like, yeah, sure, I'll text you. No, I was like, I don't know. I was like, listen, I just need to get home.
This
You're
sucked.
welcome. I said, you're welcome for the McDonald's. But like, I want to get out of this outfit and shower and go to bed. Like, I got a long day tomorrow. I got to work a double or something. Like, you know, I was just being like, please leave me alone. And he's like, you sure you don't want the gas money?
Suck.
He's like, I can get in your car real quick. And we just drive to this gas station over here. I'll put my card in. I'll fill your tank up. And I was just like, dude, no. And he like proceeds to like, so like, we're going to go out again, right? Like he just kind of and I was just like, I don't know. Yeah. And I was like, okay, bye. And he's like, well, can I have like a kiss? You deserve it. Like and I was just like, I don't know about that, man.
Gross.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta go, dude. So I literally skirted away. As soon as I got home, I blocked him on everything, right? Flash forward 2 years later, this guy finds me again on Instagram, follows me, messages me, and says, hey, long time no see. Crazy what you're doing now, huh? Immediately blocked.
Gross.
Immediately blocked. Oh my God. And that's my story of going on a date with someone who I thought was 21, turned out to be 19. He snuck into a bar and I paid for him and his roommate's entire McDonald's.
Wow.
I think he finessed me. Let's just be real.
Yeah, that's what happened for sure.
Oh my God. But yeah. Anyways, your story.
Yeah, so I had something kind of similar, but not to that effect. I was 21, and this is after I'd gotten out of a really serious relationship. So before that I was like in a relationship for like years. Okay.
Yeah.
And it was really weird because I was kind of newer to dating again
Yeah.
and being single and all that stuff. But I go on this date and like this person was like, "Oh, I think they were like 19 and I was 21." And it was like even whenever I found out cuz like it was before the date and I was like, okay, it's 2 years, it's not that big of a deal, but I was just kind of like hesitant
Yeah,
because
you get nervous.
I'd
It's the
already had
jitters.
that. Yeah. And I was like, okay, we'll see what happens, whatever. I'm not expecting anything out of it because I was like, I think I'm gonna do this, and then I'm just never gonna date anyone under 21 ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, felt
And
to be fair,
I
I
did
didn't
that, and it
know.
was like a very good call because it was just a weird date. Like it was, I don't know, it was just awkward. Like everything about it was just really awkward. It was just off. Like
Okay,
they were 19.
you're remembering in your head, but you need to, like, tell us. Tell the audience.
It was
Just some
like
details.
it's not even like real details. It was just everything was awkward. Like the conversations were like very dry and just not any sustenance to them.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
That's good, yeah.
Just a
Mhm.
19-year-old talking to me. And
Mhm,
I'm
yeah.
talking about like real things or like work or whatever the fuck it was.
Yeah, I understand work. Yeah, I work at my, at Claire's for 4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Something stupid. And it
Yeah.
was just like,
Yeah.
oh God, this is unbearable. And so it was one of those like I cut and run kind of dates. Like I was just like, yeah, I'll see you around. And
Oh, you
like
didn't stick it out? You didn't
no,
stick it out to see what would happen like me?
no, because we both drove to we met at the place together, so each had our own vehicle. So I was like, yes, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, I gotta go. I gotta work in the morning. Literally what I told them. And like, mind you, I had a house and everything like that. Like I could have totally done something if I wanted to. But
Did
it
you
was just
know
like,
they were
ugh.
19?
That's the thing. I did. So it was like kind of weird the whole time because I was kind of like, okay, I'll give it a shot.
Of, like,
Whatever.
trying to date someone
Yeah.
younger a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
get
like
it.
not too much, but like I was like, okay, well, I'm not gonna date an 18-year-old. They're 19, whatever. I'll see what happens. And I'm only 21, and I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's not like I said, me even telling my story, like, the 19 and 21 is, like, not that big of a stretch, but it's like, when you are allowed to drink and the other person's not allowed to drink, it's a little weird. You're like, "I can't take you to a bar, I can't take you here, I can't
yeah,
do
I
you."
can't. You
Yeah.
can't go to some shows with me. I can't do this. Can't do that.
Yeah.
And so that's where I decided. Like that was when I was like, okay, no one under 21. And it was like just a very simple thing for me to think about. And I was like, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, only older or young a little bit. Like, it's gotta be, yeah, over 21.
Right.
Like I said, I had no idea. And I just was laughing, like, and it gave me a little hint of college too when I was sitting there just watching them play
It's like,
games.
wow, I did this years ago.
Yeah, I was just like, "Oh, like, not used to that," but you're just like, "Oh, I mean, it's fine, it's casual, nothing too weird about it." That's how most people are too. They're like, "Hey, here's my roommates. What's up?"
Yeah.
Nothing crazy. But the fact that I didn't I was like, "Wow, we've been sitting here for 2 hours already," and he hasn't been like, "Hey, let's go."
We haven't done a single thing. We've just been
Yeah.
sitting here.
Yeah, it was just funny when he was like, "Hey, are you hungry?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm so hungry. I've been eating after work." And I was like grabbing my purse to get up, and he goes, "Hey, are you guys hungry?"
That's awkward as
That
shit.
was so funny. I just like, huh, huh. But like me now would have never stepped foot in that house. Would have never gone on a date with this guy. Would have nothing like that. Like I wouldn't even given the guy a fucking time of like an ounce of my day.
Yeah.
And I find that just hilarious that I, wasted 4 hours on somebody.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Fucking a 19-year-old. What? Like I said, I was 21 at the time, so it wasn't crazy. Wasn't like, a huge gap, but it was just really funny. And I was just like, neat. Cool. Thanks, buddy. Thanks, kiddo.
Thanks, pal.
Oh, okay. So enough of our stupid stories. Stony, would you like to tell, because Stony tells it best. Would you like to tell everyone our first date that turned into an entire marriage? So everyone knows what a beautiful first date is actually supposed to be like.
We are kind of how we got started, I guess. So, like, our first date, it's a little different than most people's, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um,
Majority of people.
yeah, the majority of people, because like even just hearing it sounds so crazy that this is how we are.
How it worked.
Yeah,
of how I
how
got
it all
here.
worked out, because mind you, we're married at this point. Of you hearing this, we've been married for
2 years,
2
over 2
years
years
now,
now.
and we so it's the weirdest thing. Like I knew of her through
This is a
social media.
for, like, how long?
Probably like 6 months, a year
All throughout
maybe.
your deployment, though.
Yeah.
I guess the way Stoney tells it to me is I was not really his entertainment on his deployment, but he, like, kept up with my life
Yeah,
while he was on
I
deployment.
lived vicariously through people, like especially people on Snapchat.
Especially when you're on deployment. Like I said, you're in the middle
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
desert.
I'm in the Middle East with
And this is
nothing around me, so that it was cool
2020
seeing yeah, and, around this time, it would have probably been, like, summer.
of 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, it's summer whenever, like, back stateside, everyone was dealing with the pandemic also, but, like, it was a lot different than, being where I was. Anyway, long story short, we jump forward to January
Of
of
2021.
21.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I knew like so when I knew she liked a certain anime, okay? And I had already just set up a new thing for my computer, which, it was active backgrounds, like you could put like GIFs and all kinds of stuff as your background. And I put one on there that was from that anime, and I knew she
Which
liked that
was
anime.
which was?
It was Darling in the Franxx.
Which is also why I have a 02 tattoo on my
Yes.
body is because of this reason right here.
This whole weird interaction, and I was gonna post this a picture of just like I was gonna post like a little clip of it on my story anyway.
And mind you,
And
I have no idea who he is. I
yeah,
don't have him added on a friend.
yeah,
We're not like
we're not friends or anything like that.
he
I
just
just
used my story as any of my other subscribers or anybody that is
yeah.
on my Snapchat does.
Yeah,
That's
and
it.
at this point, like I had like everyone knows what Conway does. I had never subscribed or anything. The only thing I knew of her and that I had was I followed her on Twitter and
I
I
thought it
had
was
her
funny.
added on Snapchat. And I got her Snapchat through Twitter because I thought it was funny. And
I'm a pretty
I
funny person.
and I was right. Like her stories were really funny to me. And like it was like a weird thing and not like I wasn't necessarily at that time like, oh, I gotta go subscribe, I gotta do this, that, and the other. So it was one of those like I would see like the advertisements and stuff like that, and I was like, haha, that's funny, and just
And
click through them.
at this time too, I had roommates that were
Musicians. Yeah.
fairly well known. And they were hilarious, and we were always doing all sorts of shenanigans together. Because, like I said, it's during the pandemic. There's not a lot of things we can do. So, like, my stuff at the time were pretty funny. Like, we were
A lot
always
of
doing
staying in the
something.
house and doing just dumb shit.
Yeah, we were always having a really good time laughing or watching shows or quoting stuff. Like, we were always making each other laugh. Like, that was one thing about the pandemic is like it could have been a lot worse for me, even though I had a lot of crappy times during it. The people that were in the house with me were amazing in a sense
Yeah,
of, like, they
and
kept me laughing.
it was like I would see that stuff, and I was like, oh, that's great, that's really funny, blah blah blah. And so back to the like, I sent the thing. I ended up adding her because I okay, hold on. So I took the picture. I was going to post it on my story, and I had just watched her story like a couple hours ago. And then as I was like as I like was about to post it, I was thinking about. I was like, oh wait, I know who else likes this because I sent it to like my story, and then people who I knew liked that anime because I was like, oh, they'll think that's cool. And so I literally just took a shot in the dark and sent it to her because like, oh, I know she really likes this anime. She had just been spending like a whole week doing nothing but like binging it and just posting about it and everything like that. So she would get a kick out of it. And so I sent it to her, and I was never, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, she might see it, might think that's cool, whatever, haha, cool, whatever. Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, hey, this is someone who's, kind of big on social media. They don't just talk to random people, whatever. It's fine.
Like, on Snapchat, I'll open people's messages, but, like, 9 times out of 10, it's somebody sending a dick pic that I have to block, or it's just somebody sending me stuff that they sent to, like, 500 other people that I have to block as well. So, like, if you send me something cool, most of the time when I'm on Snap and I don't know you, I'll open it and be like, "Hey, that's neat," or things like that. Like, I won't. It's like it is a form of social media for me too. It's like if I don't know you and you send me something, I'm gonna be courteous and reply. If it's something that doesn't really matter, it's stupid that you send me, I'm probably gonna ignore you. You know what I mean? Or if it's dick
Yes.
pic, blocked, you know?
Yes. And it's
And it was a video, and 9
yeah.
times out of
Yeah,
10,
yeah, yeah. And 9 times out of
they're
10
people jerking off. They're people jerking
it's
off.
something stupid. Yeah. And I sent that and like I didn't think anything of it. And like, I don't know, probably 10, 15 minutes later, I think. I don't remember. You'll have to fill me in
Okay,
on your end.
so
I don't remember.
I was going through my Snapchat because most of the time it's either people, like, buying
This
content
is at
or
like what, 9
asking.
o'clock or something?
Yeah, it was, like, at, like, night. And usually at that time, it's, like, people I mean, still to this time, like, people on Snapchat I have my friends on my Snapchat, and then, like, my Snapchat's still public, so people can message me when they feel like it, if they need to answer questions or anything. Sometimes it's people buying content or trying to find my links to something or, things like that, right? And Stoney sent me who I didn't know at the time, his username popped up, and it was a video, and videos make me very nervous. I've explained why in the fetish episodes. If you guys haven't listened to the fetish episodes, go for it because I tell a crazy story in that. So in my mind, I'm going, oh my God, here's another video of this guy jerking off, of some person jerking off, or it's going to be like someone in a bar screaming or something, right?
Yeah.
And I
Some
open
joking video.
it, and it was a video of a desk setup with 02 on the screen, and the music playing with it. And I replied, I was like, "Oh, that's so cool. Like, I
Yeah, because you
love
sent like
that."
you replied via text, and then I think I sent
Yeah.
another video.
No, no, no. This is how it happened. You sent me that video and I said, "Oh, that's so cool. I love that setup. That's really cool that you can do that with your, your PC background, right?" And at
Yeah,
this time
because it was like it wasn't a video, it was just text.
yeah. And then you snapped me back a selfie of yourself, like you snapped me with a picture of yourself and you were like, "Thanks. I like that anime too." And oh my God, I'm opening this picture thinking it was just gonna be another like computer part because most people don't show their face. Um, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, oh my God, this guy's so hot. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God, this guy's so fucking cute. I was like, he is so good looking. I was like, holy shit. And I snapped you back and I was like, oh wow, you're really cute. Are you single?
Yeah,
That is what
so
I said.
it was so out of nowhere.
I shot my shot. I said, "Yo, he is hot. I'm gonna snag him up." I said, "Oh my God." I was like, "That's really cool." I said, "Wow, you're super hot and good looking. Are you single?" And then Stoney can take it from there.
And I was like, I don't know why you're asking this, but yes.
And he is air punching. Stoney is air punching.
No, because the whole thing was like after I sent that and you said that, I was like, okay, that's really weird. I don't know why you would ask that. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of odd.
Maybe she has a friend.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think because I was like,
Okay.
I don't know why you're asking me that. Like you don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so that proceeded to us Snapchatting back and forth
All night.
via sending videos. We were sending full minute-long
We were
videos of us
talking. Yeah.
talking.
Yep.
Like not doing anything, but literally just answering the questions we were asking each other, and both of us just kind of feeling it out, and it was like an immediate attraction.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest thing because like this went on for probably like 2 hours
After that, yeah.
of us literally sending a Snapchat.
Video.
So like, okay, you have to think of the whole process. Sending a whole minute-long Snapchat. So you're recording the whole minute-long Snapchat. Then you're listening to the whole thing over again.
Make sure you don't say
then
something
you're
stupid.
Yeah, then you're sending it, and then they get it,
Waiting.
and they have to listen to a whole minute of it, and then they have to do the same thing. So like, mind you, it's like almost 10 minutes in between each time each Snapchat keeps going back and forth because we're just snapping so much. Like it was
And you guys know I like to talk. So
yeah, and we
I
would
was
just
talking.
talk and talk
He
and
was
talk
cute,
and talk
and I was like, "Oh, okay."
and obviously I thought she was very attractive as well.
And the fact that
And
he already was keeping up with me, so he knew about me. He knew about my
yeah, I knew
roommate.
about certain things she liked, and it's like it gave me a slight advantage being parasocial, I guess.
Yeah, honestly,
Um,
yeah.
but
like
like
you
it
knew
helped a
who.
lot because I knew enough about her to where like she didn't have to tell me like exactly everything because like I knew some things about
Or
her
I would say
already.
something and you go, "Oh yeah, I saw that," and I was
Yeah.
like, "What?"
Yeah, that was a big thing in our relationship in the beginning, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, 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 yeah." And she would bring up a story, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I remember that." And she's like, "What do you mean you remember that?" I was like, "Oh, you posted on Snapchat, and I saw like these clips about that, so it's cool to know like the rest of the story."
Yeah. Anyways,
And
so
so we started doing that, and
you got tired of
I
doing
got
that.
tired of doing that, and I finally like it was one of those things where like we should have known at that point because at the exact same time we sent each other our phone numbers.
At the exact same time, I sent mine and he sent his without even asking.
And I didn't even say anything about it. I literally just called and FaceTime videoed it immediately and she answered right off the bat. And then we FaceTimed for another like 6 hours or
No, we
so.
FaceTimed all night long. It was
I know, but like I think we FaceTimed until like 5 in the morning, I believe.
no, it was 8 in the morning.
Oh, 8 in the morning. That's right. Yeah, yeah. It
'Cause
was
I was like,
really
"I'm
late.
getting tired. I wanna go to sleep," because I took a shower.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm in
yeah.
bed.
Because it was 8 in the morning. And
Oh,
I
wait,
was
no,
like,
no, it was 8 in the morning. I fell asleep, and then I woke up and
yeah,
FaceTimed
yeah,
you
I know.
again.
Let me
Okay,
finish.
okay, okay, okay.
So we were, we had gotten off FaceTime and we were snapping back and forth after we had gotten off FaceTime because we're psychopaths like that, I guess. And we still keep snapping and then she fell asleep. And I was sitting at my computer still this whole time. Like I was like sitting at my computer desk and basically we get off the phone and we were hold on, I'm trying to think. Because like during
It
that
was
time, no, 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 hold on, I'm forgetting a very crucial part of this. A very crucial part of this.
Do you
So
guys
like
time out, pause. Do you see how excited he is talking about our first date? That's when you know you married the right person. Okay,
Hmm.
continue.
Okay, so I'm forgetting a very crucial part. During this time of us being on FaceTime till 8 in the morning, we had already said we were gonna go on a date. Like we had pretty early on, we'd already planned a date and everything.
No,
Like
I asked you on a date. I
yeah, yeah,
said
I know, but hold on. Let me get to that. So basically, like we had been talking back and forth, and she and I was like, "Hey, we need to go do something." And she's like, "Yeah, let's go do something." And I was like, "Well, I know you like live music, so let's see what's going on, what's around." And we ended up finding a concert we were going to go to, and one of the things that threw me back a little bit about it is we were planning on going. So I'm looking at all this stuff, and like I
you're looking
just
at
said, the
tickets.
concert. She had bought tickets that she wanted and everything. Like before I even had a chance to like look at all the tickets and see where everything was, she's like, "Okay, I've got the tickets. We're gonna go do this on Saturday." And I was like, "Okay, I guess our first date will be on Saturday."
I was like, "All right, I bought tickets to William Clark Green. I got us front row at Billy Bob's. I'm taking you on a date. This is what we're doing." And I was like, "Then you can like buy me drinks or something while we're there."
Yeah,
You
so
were like, "What the fuck?"
so I was just like, "Okay, that's really cool." And honestly, I was taken aback because I was like, "Wow, that's really refreshing." That's really cool that like that she made the effort at the very start and everything like that. And I was just like, that's really cool. And so I was
If
like,
they
cool.
wanted to, they would.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I'm going on a date with her. This is really cool. So the rest of the night was literally us just hanging out,
And this
having a good
was
time.
let's say like 4 days later. Like this is like a Tuesday
Yeah. This was at the very beginning of that week. So it was going to be like a few days until this would actually happen.
until Saturday.
So that had already been planned. And then we just kept talking until 8 o'clock in the morning. And
I
then
fell asleep.
we both fell asleep finally.
You
And
fell asleep at your desk.
I fell asleep at my desk. Yes, I did. And then I woke up probably around like 1 in the afternoon,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
And I remember I was just so excited for everything that like I texted her or I snapped her or something like that. And then she texted me when she woke up. And then we FaceTimed again. And I was like, I cannot wait until Saturday. Can I take you? Have you eaten yet? And she's like, no, I haven't. I was like, okay, well then can I just take you on a date tonight? Because I can't wait till Saturday. And we did, and we went to these
And
fun
mind
little
you,
shops.
time out. No. We're gonna get into details of it. I
Oh, you
was
can
like,
take over then
I
from
was
there.
like, oh my God, yeah. And then we proceeded to FaceTime some more. So I like have my phone like on the outer part of my shower. So I'm not like showing myself, but we're still like having a conversation. So I'm not like texting in the shower, getting my phone wet. And I'm like, at this point, shaving everything. I'm shaving everything. I'm like, ooh. we about to go on a date now. Like, oh my God, we're literally like, he's taking me on a date today. Oh my God, like this is happening. Holy fuck. So like, I'm like shaving. I'm like trying to get my house like somewhat cleaned up. I asked my roommate, I said, hey, can you go like wash my sheets real quick for me? Like he's literally coming immediately. And I kind of want him to come back, at this point I was like, I'm going to fuck this guy. Like before he even takes you on a date, I was like, I want to fuck this guy. And I was
You had
like,
made this decision.
I already made the decision. I was like, I shaved everything. I was like, ooh, I'm getting dick tonight, which is normal as a female. If guys can do it, girls can too, And I told my roommate, I said, hey, can you like throw my sheets in the washer real quick and like make my bed for you? Like, I'll give you some money if you could do that for me real quickly. And she's like, yeah, no problem. Like, oh my God, that's so exciting. You're going on a date. Like, you haven't been on a date in a hot minute. In my news time, I haven't been on a date in a hot minute. And she's like, yeah. So I'm like hurrying and getting ready and doing my hair and my makeup. And Stoney is doing his thing at his house.
Yeah, I
I'm like
totally
listening
was
to
just
hype up music because I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my
yeah, I was,
God. Like,
and so we basically
Stoney
like
was just excited. Let's just put it
I
that way.
was
We were
very
very
excited.
excited.
And I went to and like I had to drive to her house because she lived like on the other side of the city. And I was like, okay, cool. So it was like, all right, it's like a 45-minute drive, and I'm gonna, drive there, hype myself up, whatever. And so like I'm hyping myself up, and then like I get there, and I remember like it was the most not necessarily it was like the most nerve-wracking experience. Because like I get there.
And you guys who know me are like, what a fucking dork. She's so dorky, Stoney. Come on. But you don't know
Yeah,
that yet.
yeah, I didn't know that yet.
Now
And
you're like, Jesus.
I knock on the door, and I just because like I can remember exactly what she was wearing. Like
Aw.
like it's crazy, but the thing that got me
Aw.
is like any of you who follow on social media know she has this pink like feather. It's like not feathered fur
Fur.
jacket, and it is the loudest thing ever. And that's what she was wearing, and I was like, "That is a really cool jacket," and it
Wearing
stuck
my
in my
pink
head
fur
forever.
jacket.
And
And mind you, before he knocks on my or rings my doorbell, I am jamming to Metallica's "For Whom the Bell Tolls," hyping myself up, getting ready for this day. Like, woo, it's my pump up song. And I pause the music, and he opens the door, and I was just like for me, that was my rom-com moment. That was 100% my like, wow.
what? So, like, from your perspective, I guess the first thing would have been you had to look up.
Yeah. I didn't know. Mind you, like, I didn't know. I knew things about you, but this was like casual conversations. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know he was so tall, which like for me, it's like I fucking love tall people. Um, and I'm 5'3", and Stoney's like 6'4", so I was like, yes, let me climb you, please, sir. I was like,
And
yes.
so our first date from there was like we got in my truck and we
You
were gonna.
opened my door. You're very
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah.
You're polite.
Sorry, I didn't know that was necessary
Well, you
for the
did. You opened
story.
my door. You were very polite. You smelled so good.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
God.
gave her a hug whenever I first saw her because I
You
was like
smelled so good. I was like,
excited.
holy.
And so we get in the truck and we start driving, and we were gonna go to this like whole little area I knew, and basically she was like, "Okay, cool, let's go." And then the one thing about her that stuck out immediately was I could tell she was nervous, and I think she could tell I was nervous because we were sitting there at a stoplight, and like we had music playing, but it was
We
kind of
were a
quiet.
street down from my house. We didn't even
Yeah,
like.
and like we're just sitting there at the stoplight, and like we're kind of making chit chat because like we're both kind of nervous. And then she like grabs my hand and goes, "Can I just kiss you? I feel like this is very awkward, and I just need to get this over with so we can just continue with the night and no one be nervous." And I was like,
It wasn't like awkward. It was like I knew we were like nervous to do that because we both wanted to.
"Yes, yeah."
So
And I was like, "Okay." And so we just leaned over and kissed each other, and from there on, it was literally just like a train that never got off.
it was magic.
We went to this bookstore, and she knocked a bunch of shit over.
Yeah, that's his favorite. No, you gotta talk.
No, I
about
don't want to give a whole lot of details about where everything
Oh.
is.
Well, he took me to this like bookstore.
I took her to a book. Hold on, I'm gonna tell this part because I planned all this stuff because it was just like a cool little thing.
And then I
And
just got done watching anime. So like this was
yeah,
really good for
I
me.
took her to this bookstore and we looked around at all this stuff. She picked out, or she was looking at this one book that she really liked. And I
I
bought the
still
book
have
for
it.
her and we still have it. It's on our bookshelf to this day. And then we went from there and we went and had sushi and it was just like a cool little experience. And then we just walked around this like shopping area and had a fun time. And then we got back in the truck
Oh, this
and
is my favorite part. We got back in the truck. So like he took me on this really lovely date. We've been giggling. We were in this bookstore and I was like putting these like map things back and I
you
ended
don't
up
have to explain all of this.
anyways, I was putting these like map things back because when you tell the story, you tell this part every time
I
after.
know, but I like leaving some part of out just because I don't like everyone knowing exactly where we're
Yes.
at.
Well, we don't know where exactly we're at. But anyways, I knocked a bunch of shit over in the store and he was laughing so hard at me, but I was like nervous. I was actually genuinely like
Super embarrassed.
super embarrassed and nervous because I just knocked out all the shit and he was just laughing and like helped me pick it all up and it was like I said, rom-com moment.
Yeah,
Then
and so then I just started like guiding her around the store. I was like, nope, 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 because she would just make wide turns and start looking at stuff.
so then we get in after we ate and we did a bit of a little like shopping, looking around, right? We got back to your truck and we made out in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, we did do that. We did do that.
We made out in the parking lot.
Oh yeah, like we were in high school.
I was like, this is hot. And then I casually was like, would you like
Come back to
no,
my
I
house.
did not say come back to my house. I said, would you like to have sex with me? And you said, oh yeah. Like fucking Macho Man Randy Savage. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay. And we went back and we had a really lovely night touching each
And
other's
it
bodies.
never left.
And after that, we have not spent more than 24 hours apart.
Yep.
And it's been 2 years.
Yep.
From that moment when he went to my house, he never left.
So that was like 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah. He never left. We never left each other's side. We did everything together. He practically like moved into my house pretty much.
Yeah,
He
literally that first date, which was supposed to just be like maybe a night, maybe a day, turned into like we stayed together for a full week straight.
He stayed at my house for a week and then we
And
went back.
then I was like, oh, I guess I should probably go home since I got to get, more clothes and
And
stuff
I went
like
with him
that.
and he went and
Because
grabbed my
I,
clothes and then we went right back to my house.
yeah, went and grabbed clothes and I was like, well, okay, this is, I guess where we're gonna hang out here. And then a
And
month
then
later, I ended up
hang
moving all
on.
my stuff in.
And then that later that week, we had the most magical date I
Oh
have
yeah, and then we actually went to the
ever.
concert on that Saturday we were supposed to go to.
It was the most magical date I have ever been
Yep.
on in my
And
life.
that was like our second date, but that was like
And
a very memorable date.
that's literally when I fell in love with Stoney. Like I was like, he is the one. I was like, this is the dude that I'm going to marry 100%.
Yep.
And like no doubt in my mind, like I was like, he is who I need to marry
Yep.
100%. But
And
like
we
that
knew each other then and we fell in love then and we have not stopped.
and like that date was so magical because we got ready at the house, which he was, never left my house. So he's been already here for like the rest of the week, right?
Yep.
We get dressed and get ready. Like we got to like see each other's like getting ready, you know,
Oh yeah, we kind
know,
of fast tracked the whole part of
vibes.
relationships that take like 6 months usually to go through.
We did that in like a week.
We did it in a week. Like we talked about everything. We got to, just see each other getting ready. We
The things,
went out and
like that.
went
And
to
then
concerts. Like we did a whole bunch of stuff very fast.
we got ready and then we went to Billy Bob's and we found our seats and you were so obsessed of like how well I planned our date for us. Like, because I got us good tickets and we were really close. And it was
Yeah, we
like,
had just a great time.
it
And
was
then
such a magical, magical, magical night. And then we went to, one
we
of
went to a couple of the bars. Yeah,
one of our favorite bars we went
yep.
to. And I was just like obsessed. I've been obsessed with you ever since.
Yep. And even to this day, and the thing I think we did the best in our relationship
I'm still in
that
love with you as much as I am.
exactly.
night.
That's one of the obviously that's the best part of our relationship. But one of the things that I'm really happy and grateful for in our relationship is we always take pictures.
Yeah.
Like we have pictures from that very first
We'll
night.
probably post them as that'll be the promoting.
I remember we took pictures on our first like their first date. We took pictures in the parking lot. We took
Well, I
selfies
said
together.
that. I remember saying that to you. I said, "Hey, can I take a picture with you?" I was like, I just do this because you never know.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Sure." And
Yeah, and
I'll
I
probably post
remember
that
she
picture for you guys.
literally within minutes of getting in my truck when I first picked her up, we took a picture together.
And then we kissed.
Yep.
Guys, when I tell you I want some, I don't fucking play around. I'm like, I will show you how much I fucking want you. I will show
Yeah.
you.
So that's I think that'll wrap up this like
Yeah.
3-hour episode we just recorded.
It's about 2 hours.
Good
But yeah,
lord, that's a long episode.
that was what we that's what we did, guys. And that's how we fell in love. And we'll tell our wedding stories some other time and the parts to it and everything like that. But that's just a little bit of us that we haven't shared with you guys before. And I love that because I get that question all the time of like how we met and how we, what was our first date like or anything. And I wanted to tell you guys about all the other weird dates we had before so you could understand that like when I tell you that date was so magical,
It was a
those
great
that,
time.
that first week of us together was so incredibly overwhelmingly positive that it's like, look, talking about all these other first dates with you, I just giggle and laugh because I'm like, what the fuck,
Yeah, why did we do that? Why did we put up with other shit?
Yeah. And it's also like to inspire you guys if like if you're single right now or you're in a relationship that you're not feeling or you're nervous about dating again, you got to go with it and trust your instincts and it will hit you so fucking fast. It
And
will
out of nowhere.
It will be very like, when people say it's when you least unexpect it and blah, blah, and that sounds so fucking cliche because I'm literally I like, roll my eyes at people like that. It is not I wouldn't say, like, it comes out of n it's like, boom, smacks you. It's more of, like, it will literally be when you're having, like, the worst time of your life. It's so weird to think, but it'll be, like, when you're just not doing great or in a sense of you are giving up on dating. Or
Yes.
just done. It will literally come around that time, and then you're like, "Holy fucking shit. This is what everyone talks about." But then granted, like, I wanna say that, but I also can't because it's like we are a very unique couple, and our
Yeah.
circumstances are very, very, very interesting. Like I said, Stoney and I got married maybe 2 or 3 months into knowing each other. You know what I mean? So, like, our
No,
circumstances were
it was
very
4 months.
different.
It was 4
Yeah,
months.
well, we planned it, but we knew we were gonna get married a month later. Like, a month
Oh,
into
yeah,
us
yeah,
dating
yeah.
a month into us dating, we literally planned to get married
Yep.
2 months later. Like, we were already making plans. So, like I said, guys, it just kind of our circumstances is very, very, very weird and very unique, and there's not a lot of people like that. But then again, you hear all the stories of, like, back in the day, people would date for, like, a day, and then they'd get married, a month later, and they've been together for, like, 62 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends, but like when you know, you will know, and you will be so obsessed in a good way, not a bad way. It won't be like obsession of like I wouldn't say taking up all your time, but you'll still have your priorities there. You'll just be including these people in your priorities. You know,
Yes.
and that's the best part. But yeah, it was a very long episode, and I appreciate you guys sticking around for it. Welcome back to us. We're here for you guys. We hope that you guys are enjoying these new episodes that are gonna be coming out. First one back, might as well do first dates.
I guess so, yeah.
But if you made it this long with the episode, if you guys this is your first episode you're listening to, every week we do a secret passcode where you can send to us if you find it, or you can post it in our comments. But this week's secret passcode is just going to be the little pasta dish emoji, so it symbolizes a first date. Why not? Little pasta plate. Go ahead and leave that down in the comments below, or send it to us privately if you're not really a public person. That's fine too. It just knows that it lets us know that you listened all the way through, and it's a fun little thing. And in the future, when we release merch, it'll be a little discount for you guys. So yeah, keep that in mind. But yeah, I appreciate you guys listening. Where can we find you Stoney of Robinson.
Well, you can find me everywhere at StoneyRobbins_.
That's pretty easy to do.
There's a 0 sometimes in Stoney. You just have to figure out which one it is.
Yep.
And where can they find you, Conway?
You always gotta ask.
I hate asking it. It's like, come on, if you found us, you know where you can find her.
You guys can find me at conwaytitty.com. That is Conway, TITTY.com. That's where all my links are at. Come hang out and watch Stoney and I play games on the Twitch or hang out. We've been playing a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lately, so if you're into that, come hang out. But other than that, you guys take care, stay hydrated, get some good rest, and we'll see you on the next episode. I appreciate you guys listening. All right. I'll see you later. Bye-bye!